Today, in episode 11 of our CySec 101 series, we're going to go through the Windows command line, and this is a part of the Cybersecurity 101 pathway of TryHackMe. And in this particular module, we're going to go through all of the command lines. So that will be the Windows command line, Windows PowerShell, and of course, Linux shells. So that being said, let's actually dive into the introduction of this particular series. This video is sponsored by Hackaholics Anonymous, the membership community, and to get access to all of the perks, for example, the Discord communities that are available to each tier, the Python automations that are available for download, and all of the exclusive content and everything else that comes along with those memberships, like the live streams and so on and so forth. I do encourage you to check out Hackaholics Anonymous. The link to that is going to be in the description below, or you can go to youtube.com/@HankHacksHackers/join, and you can check out what we got with the Hackaholics Anonymous community. All right, that being said, let us dive into the Windows command line introduction. All right, so if you're like most people in the computer realm, you like a graphical user interface, also known as a GUI or a GUI, however you want to pronounce it, until you actually get a hold of the command line and you get good at the command line, which is considered to be the CLI. When you get good at the command line, for a lot of reasons, you don't want to do the graphical interface anymore, mostly because of the fact that GUIs are usually very intuitive, but command lines are very quick. So the GUI will allow you to work with something that you're not familiar with, for example, and you can familiarize yourself with that environment. You can poke around, click around, discover a bunch of different things that may be available in that environment. But when you're dealing with a CLI, what you need to do is develop a prompt or use prompts to interact with the system. CLIs typically have a learning curve, so you have to master the command line, you have to run it. If you don't know the commands, it will take you a while, and the learning curve is much steeper than interacting with a GUI. If you want to use as an example how many clicks that it'll take to find your IP address using a GUI, most likely you'll have to click around a lot. Using the command line, you don't even need to raise your hands. Literally, you just type in something like ifconfig or ipconfig, something like that, and then you'll get your IP address really quickly. So if you want to recheck the IP address, you need to issue the same command instead of moving the mouse pointer to every corner of the screen inside of the graphic interface. So GUIs are very useful, they're very intuitive, but CLIs are much faster if you know what you're looking for. There are a lot of other advantages as well. So if you actually want to use the CLI over the GUI, there will be a lower resource usage. So they require fewer system resources than the graphic intensive GUIs. So meaning you can basically run the CLI system on an older hardware or systems with limited memory or limited graphics cards. If you're using cloud computing, your system will require low resources, which then it will turn into lower your bill. So if you actually use the CLI instead of the graphic interface in a cloud environment, your bills will be cheaper. Automation, so you can automate a lot of stuff on the GUI, of course, but creating a batch file or a script with the commands that you need to repeat is much easier inside of the CLI, inside of shell scripting or command line PowerShell scripting. And then there's remote management. So if you need to use SSH, which we'll actually have to do to log into one of our machines right now, if you need to use SSH to manage a remote system, or like a server or a router or any kind of an IoT device, you actually need to be able to use the CLI to do so. So this actually works on slow network speeds or something that has a limited resource. For example, a Raspberry Pi. A Raspberry Pi is not going to have the greatest CPU on it. It doesn't have a lot of processing power. It's not going to have a massive graphics card or anything like that. It's it's literally smaller than your cell phone in a lot of cases. So the Raspberry Pi is basically a mini or a micro computer that you can install in a lot of different environments, and you can use it with the command line, and it'll be fairly easy to deal with, and it won't use up all of the resources of your Raspberry Pi. So that's just one example of it. The objectives that we have for this specific loom is going to be using the Windows command prompt, which is known as the cmd.exe. This is different from the PowerShell. We're going to go through the PowerShell with a different video. So we're specifically going to focus on the CMD, the command line, and we're going to learn how to display basic info, check in, troubleshoot network configurations, manage files and folders, and check running processes. And the prerequisites would be the Windows and AD Fundamentals module, which if you haven't done so already, I would recommend that you do it. It is the last 4 episodes, so it would be episode 7, 8, 9, and 10, I believe, of the CySec 101 series, where we're going to go through the basics of Windows and then the basics of Active Directory. So if you haven't done that, I would highly recommend you actually go through that and then come back to this video. And then basically that's it, right? So I already started the virtual machine just to get ahead of this exercise. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use the attack box to SSH into it. If you want to use OpenVPN and use your own computer to SSH into it, you can do that as well. You just have to make sure that you configure OpenVPN on your computer so that you can connect to TryHackMe. This is a free room, so even if you don't have a paid subscription, you can actually get access to the attack box in this room, as well as the virtual machines that are available. They generate a new IP address for every single time, so this IP address isn't going to work for you. When you click on Start Machine at the very top of the screen right here, you'll actually get a new IP address that's going to be assigned to you, and then that would be the IP address that you would use to SSH into that virtual machine. So in this particular case, we're going to be user at this IP address, and this is going to be our password, and then we're going to establish our SSH connection. The question is, what is the default command line interpreter in Windows? And that would be the cmd.exe. So that we have our first official answer here. And now we can actually zoom out of the screen and go and log in to our SSH. So let's do that. So this is what the split screen looks like in TryHackMe. They have the Christmas theme because it is currently the holiday time inside of our recording environment, or I guess the recording schedule. It's like Christmas is literally right around the corner. So this is what it looks like when you open up a terminal. This is an Ubuntu machine. So this is like a Linux Ubuntu machine that we are using as our attack box, and we need to use this to SSH into our virtual machine here. So I'm just going to copy the address, and then I'm going to use the credentials that I have here. So TryHackMe 123 and exclamation. So we're going to do SSH, and then we're going to do user at, and then I'm going to paste the IP address, and I'm going to press enter. And it's going to say, are you sure you want to do this? Yes, I am sure I want to do this. And then I need to do capital T, TryHackMe 123, and then exclamation. And that is it. I am now officially inside of my Windows computer, my Windows machine that we're going to use for the rest of this room. So we are officially done with our introduction, and we've configured our machine. We've logged into SSH. So let's dive into some of these commands here. All right, so being that we are going to run everything inside of the command line, instead of reading through everything and then running the commands, what I'm going to do is, in the interest of time, I'm just going to have the screen record the command line the entire time. And then I'm just going to run through the commands, explain what they are, we'll display the information that they pull, and then at the very end of it, we'll come back and it will answer the questions. And we'll just do that in every single task, because everything, as you can see, is going to be commands that we're just going to run inside of the command line. So instead of reading and then going through the command line, we're just going to go through the command line, and then I'm going to open this window up in my secondary window here, in my secondary screen, and then I'll read off of it, I'll run the commands. You get the picture. So we're just going to click this view full screen at the bottom right here. It's going to open up our computer inside of the full screen mode. And then what I can do is I can just zoom in for you right here. And now this is what it's going to look like, and it'll be much easier to interact with the machine this way. So the first command here under our basic system information is going to be running the set command. It says you can issue the set command to check the path from the command line. The terminal output will show us where the Windows shell will execute all of its commands. So if I literally just type in set and then press enter, I believe that's what it is. There we go. So we get all of the information that we have about this particular machine that we are logged into. So things like the home drive, as well as the driver data and number of processors, all of that stuff is available for our virtual machine, the Windows virtual machine that I'm connected into. Now, one of the things that have been pointed out to us is the login name, the number of processes, OS Windows, so on and so forth. So if I go to log name right here, in my case, my login name is actually the user, right? So in the example, the documentation, the login name is Strategos, I guess, but for us, it's the user. And then the number of processors is 2, the OS is Windows NT, the path is Windows System 32, so on and so forth. So these are all different information, but this is just one of the big things that is available from all of the data that you're going to pull if you wanted to see the login name or who you're logged in as. For example, out of all of this data, you can just type in set and then go look for log name. Now, in a lot of cases in Linux, what can also work is if I do who am I. So let's see if this actually works inside of Windows. So if I do who am I, it actually also gives me who I am over here as well. So it says it at the bottom right here. It says Windows Server 2022, which is the host that we're on. So this is what we see right here. That's the actual host that we're connected to. And the user that we are connected as is the user. And it also shows that for us inside of this whole thing. So in this particular case, for our Windows computer, that's who we are logged in as on the Win Server 2022 host. So you can use who am I to actually pull that information, or you can just type in set and sift and sort through everything else that you got. And you have the SSH client connection, you have the port of that connection, so on and so forth. So for example, the SSH connection data that you see right here on port 22, 10.10.166.10, that is what we have. That is actually our virtual machine. So this IP address is the virtual machine IP address that we're connected to. 10.10.71.80 is the IP address of the attack box. So if you see it in the top right corner, that's the IP address of the attack box that is being used to connect to the virtual machine, our Windows virtual machine that we have over here. So you can see a lot of great information by just running the set command, and that's essentially like the point of this specific command that we're running. So you run set, you get a bunch of information about your current machine and everything that you are logged in as. So moving on to our next command, which is the VER command, and it stands for version. And so what it does, I'm going to do CLS to clean the screen here, clear the screen. And what it does is it gives you the Windows version that you have, right? So I have Microsoft Windows version 10, 203, 48, yada, yada, yada. So it gives me the operating system version that I'm currently running. So that is what we get when we run ver. And I don't like being in this user Windows, see users, user, but just for the intents of purposes, just in case the next series of commands has me move out of this, I don't want to jump ahead going back and forth. So this is just what it shows so far, and this is what we're logged in as. This is what we're logged in as. This is the location that we're in, which is inside of the C drive in the users folder, logged in as the user inside of the user's home directory. And then so when I run ver, you can see that this is the entire command line that I have here, and then it'll just run it right after that, like that. We can also do CWD, which is the current working directory, or actually PWD, I guess is working. It's still not working. So, usually it actually gives me what the current working directory is that I'm at. So that's interesting. So if I just do dir by itself, it'll list the contents of where I am in. So these are all the stuff that's inside of my location, and this is the actual path that I'm in. So directory of cc, yada, 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 which is what you see right here. So that's my current path that I'm in. And then when you run dir, it just lists all of the contents of the current directory that you're in. I'm kind of jumping ahead, but I was just trying to kind of show you what all of this means in this case. So we've done set so far. We have done VER for version so far. Another one that's very, very useful to get system information would be system info, and you press that, and system info will give me various information about the system, like the operating system information, system details, process and memory, and so on and so forth. And it's currently loading that for me, and once it's done, there we go. So we have all of that information. So it gives me the operating system information, it gives me the RAM or the memory information, as well as everything else. So we can see things like the BIOS version, the Windows directory where it's actually located, the system directory where it's located, where the boot device is located, so on and so forth. And then we have total physical memory, meaning 980 megabytes, massive amounts of physical memory. And then we have virtual memory, which is 1.3 gigabytes. So 1003, which is, I guess it's better. So it's like 1.3 gigabytes of RAM is not that bad. And then we have, at least for a virtual machine, that's available for free on TryHackMe. That's not that bad. We have the page file locations, which is where a lot of the random access memory kind of swap type of data is being stored. We have hotfixes, network cards, and all of the other stuff. So system information will get you information about the system, the operating system, its versions, but it'll also give you information about the memory, the storage, as well as the random access memory that is available on your virtual machine. So that is all good. And then we can always get more information by piping it through more if the output is too long. So for example, if we do a driver query command, right? So if I do driver query, the output is going to, let me actually clean the screen so we can get a better, so driver query. If we do that, the output is pretty big. So if you wanted to kind of get specific, and you can see it's still just loading. It's just going to keep running to get me information. Driver query, running that and then piping this output into more, we can display the output page by page instead of getting all of the stuff inside of this like massive output right here. So instead of having to scroll up and down, and let's say you don't want to scroll up and down, or let's say the output is so much that you can't scroll all the way up or all the way down. So what we can do is we can do driver query and then pipe it. That's what that means, is you do one of these vertical pipes. So if you hold down shift and then press the / button, which is usually right above the enter button, and you do that and you just type in more, press enter, and now it's page by page. And you can see right here it says more right here, and then you can just click right next or click with the mouse. Let's see how we can get the data. Maybe if it's a scroll thing. I think it's a scroll thing. Huh. None of those things seems to be working. So I wonder how we were supposed to actually display the output page by page if we can't actually scroll through the pages. That's kind of gnarly when you think about it. Can I type anything? I can't type anything. So I can't do up and down. Or you know what? I think it was just taking a long time for it to process. So if we do driver query, we got that. If we do driver query, let's do driver query more. If I run that, now I have page. So let me do down. Maybe it'll take, yeah, I think it's taking a couple of seconds for it to load. Either down, or we'll do next on the right, back, up, down, still not working. So the one thing that we should be able to do is do Control-C to get out of it. And okay, that worked immediately. So, I mean, it's supposed to display things page by page, and we're supposed to be able to scroll through it, but for whatever reason that wasn't working. So I'm guessing that maybe it was like a scrolling up and down with the mouse that just didn't register immediately, and that's why it didn't work. There are a few other things that we can go over, which is the help command. So if I do, for example, driver query help, I believe should give me a help menu. Or if I do help driver query, let's see if we can get a help menu. It's not supported to help. Try driver query / question. So that might be the way that we can get driver query. Oh, it's not driver query. I'm misspelling that. So invalid option would be help. So let's see if I can do driver query and then / question mark. That should get us a help menu. There we go. Okay, so the help menu is pulled up by doing the / question mark. So you do the command and then you do / question mark, and then it'll give you the help menu, which is essentially a general syntax of how you're supposed to use it. It gives you a description of what the actual command is, and then from there what the various options are that you can run with that given command. So in this particular case, these are the options that we have for the driver query command. So that's what we got. And then the very last thing that they share with us is CLS, which we've already covered, which means to clear the screen. So that's all the commands that we have in task 1. So the first question is, what is the OS version of the Windows virtual machine? And so we can actually get that by running any of the commands that we have. So we'll just do system info. And then by running system info, we'll be able to get the OS name as well as the OS version. And I believe they're looking for it seems to be the numerical version of Windows that we're looking for. So if we scroll all the way up under OS, we can see OS version is over here. So 10.0.230, So that could be the answer. So I'm just going to type that manually. And let's see if that is actually the answer that we are looking for. So 10.0.20348 and enter. And that is not it. So I think maybe they're looking for the, let's see, because I mean, that is the OS version of the Windows virtual machine. So maybe they're looking for the build 20348 as well, or we can potentially use a different command that will give us the full thing, I'm guessing. So, oh, you know what? I think it is actually the ver command. So it's not this version, because if you remember, so look at that, and then I'll run ver, press enter, and then you can see that this is actually a much longer version. So there's an extra suffix at the end of this. So after the 20348, there's another amount of data. So it's actually 10.0.20348.2655. And that is the correct answer. There we go. So, and then the next one is, what is the host name of the Windows VM? And in this particular case, I can already tell you that it's the WinServe 2002 or 2022 core. I believe that is the actual host name. But what we can do is we can run one of our other commands to actually pull that information. So let's say I will run, because I feel like it's already this thing right here, the Windows, this thing. I believe that that's the actual host name that I have. And especially if I run the who am I, or I think if we can even do host. So if I do host, or let's say host name, yeah, so there it is. So that is the actual host name. So WinServe 2022-core. So let's type that out and see if that is it. Yep, that is it. So very good. So we have the questions answered in our particular case. So I'm just going to refresh the screen so you can see the answers were correct, so you don't think that I'm trying to pull your leg or anything like that. And there we go, basic information, and we have it pulled up, and there we go. So OS version was that full version, and then the host name was the Windows VM. So that is it for that task. So now let's go into network troubleshooting. So for network troubleshooting, there's essentially everything that has to do with the internet connection, right? Or the network that your computer is connected to. And these are what all of the different commands are going to be that we're going to run to get all of that data, all of that information. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit here so that we can actually do that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to clear the screen here. And the very first command is the IP config command, and the IP config command, and I love the output that is inside of the Windows command line because it's just so much cleaner and so much straighter to the point, where it'll just give you the information that you're actually looking for, which is, this is the IPv4 address that I have for this machine, and then this is the subnet that I'm on, and then this is going to be the default gateway that I have for this machine. IPv6 is a very different type of address. So when you think of IP address, most people think about this type of a format of IP address because that's the IPv4. It's the more common one. And then IPv6 is this really, really long thing because there's just more variations that can be generated with an IPv6 address. So IP config gets you, at the very least, the IP address that's assigned to your machine, as well as the subnet that you're on. And then this is a subnet of 16. So if you can look at this being an octet, this being another octet, and we have two of them filled, and then we have the two over here that are empty, that means that we have a 16-bit, I believe, 16-bit octet, or yeah, something like that. A subnet of 16, I'm going to call it that, a subnet mask of 16. And then what's available is that 254 addresses on this and 254 addresses on this. So if you multiply 254 times 254, let me actually pull out my calculator real quick, what we have is 64,516 IP addresses that can be generated on this particular subnet. Now, if you had 255.255.255, that means that you have a 3 octets filled in, so that would be a subnet of 24, which means you only have this last one to work with, which means you only have 254 addresses that can potentially be assigned on that particular subnet. So for TryHackMe, since they have a massive amount of users that are constantly using these virtual machines, they have to have a much larger subnet. I'm getting a little bit too much into the weeds of it. This is more about networking than it is about system administration or the Windows command line, but I do like giving some extra information so that you can have some extra information. So that's basically what ipconfig does for you. There's another version of it that if you do ipconfig all, it will actually give you the rest of the data that typically when you just run ifconfig inside of a Mac system, it'll give you all of this other data as well. And it gives you more information about the network configuration. So for example, you'll get DNS servers and then you'll get the DHCP enabled option to just confirm that it's actually been enabled. So in this particular case, we actually can see DHCP, the dynamic host configuration protocol, that has been enabled. And that's the configuration protocol that actually assigns the IP address every time that you connect a device into your local network. That's the configuration protocol that actually assigns the IP address to that machine. And then of course the DNS settings. So let's see where we can find our DNS. DNS server right here is 10.0.0.0.2, and that's available for us. The DHCP v6 is also here for the IPv6 version. Our DHCP server address is here, which is the same as our default gateway address. And then the lease that has to do with the IP lease that happens with the DHCP, which means that when does this IP address that we have expire? So the IP address that was assigned to us, when does that actually expire? This thing right here. And it should expire, especially in a dynamic environment that gets a lot of people who get assigned IP addresses. And so for me, it's currently right now it's December 21st that I'm running this exercise. So I only have a 24-hour cycle. I think even a less than a 24-hour cycle, because it's happening at, what is it? The least expires in less than, actually it's literally an hour long, because now that I think about it, TryHackMe servers are actually ahead. So I'm on the 21st, they're in the 22nd, because they're already on Sunday, because they're working out of the UK, I believe. I think that's where they're based out of. So their servers are technically running on the 22nd. So that's when I got this lease on this particular IP address that I'm using. And then the lease expires literally an hour later. So it's a very, very short-term lease is what I've gotten. And that is something that is also configured via our DHCP. And that is called the IP lease. And so that's what we get when we run ipconfig/all. Now let's say that we want to start troubleshooting the network. So let's say for whatever reason, let's say maybe connections aren't being established consistently, or we don't know if something is actually up or if it isn't, so on and so forth. So let's say we want to reach example.com, right? And we want to see if it's up. So if I do ping example.com, I'll get some kind of a response, hopefully. It seems like I have not gotten any kind of response in this case. So I think example.com was literally just the example that I'm supposed to get. So when you see request timed out, this is actually a good exercise as well. Request times out is when the server is not up, when that website is not up and it's not working. So after 5 requests, or 4 requests, I guess, it cancels it. So one that would be up would probably be google.com. So if I do that, we can see that pinging google.com, hopefully it's going to be request timed out again. So I guess we are not getting any access because our virtual machine is not connected to the internet. So let's see what the instructions over here says. So it says the command syntax is ping target name, inspired by ping pong. We send a specific ICMP packet to listen for a response. If a response was received, we know that we can reach the target and they can reach us. So if we can reach the example.com, then we're all good. So in the example that we get on the actual documentation, it actually shows us a successful example. For our particular case, it seems to be that our machine, our virtual machine, is not connected to the internet or doesn't have internet access. Therefore, it's not giving me the type of response that we're looking for. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to show you what a successful response looks like in case you don't know. So if we scroll down here, this is what it actually looks like. So when we ping it out, we actually get a reply from the IP address of what we're trying to reach. So for example, example.com's IP address would be this IP address, and it actually is responding to us, and we got a reply from it. So meaning there were 4 packets sent, there were 4 packets received, and there was nothing lost in the process. Now in our particular case, we can see that we sent out 4 packets, but we didn't receive any. So sent were 4, received was 0, which means 4 packets were lost and nothing was actually delivered, which is not the configuration that we want. So either google.com is down, which I don't think they're down, or we don't have access to the internet and we can't actually connect to google.com, which is more likely the case. Now, another valuable tool that we can use for troubleshooting is called traceroute. Now, traceroute is actually spelled out T-R-A-C-E and then R-T, which is the traceroute command. And then we would do the same thing. So traceroute google.com, and I'm pretty sure this is not going to work because we don't have connection to the internet. So if we ran this, it would actually tell us, how many hops it's going to take for our IP address to connect to the IP address of Google. And the request has been timed out in this particular case, which it leads me to believe that we actually don't have connection. So the documentation here says, the command traceroute and the target name traces the network route traversed to reach the target. Without getting into details, it expects the routers on the path to notify us if they drop a packet because the time to live has reached 0. The terminal output will show what has passed through 15 routers before reaching our target. So it's routing, right? So it's tracing the route of the routers. I'm just going to stop this because I don't think that's actually going to do anything. So it's going to trace the route that it's taking. So this is what it actually looks like. So the first 7, no, actually the first one worked, and then the next 7 did not work. They got timed out, and then the next one worked, and then the rest of them continued to work. And then the trace was finally complete, and then it went from the main IP address, and then it landed on this final IP address that it was trying to connect to, and it took 16 hops. That's what that means. It took 16 hops to reach there, and the maximum is typically 30 hops, right? So it went from the IP address of wherever this person was, and it tried to reach this particular IP address, and so it took 16 hops to actually reach there. So networking commands that we're going to continue. I'm hoping that the rest of these commands will actually run even though I don't have internet connection on this virtual machine. So let's see if we can get any other responses out of here. The next one is the NS lookup, which is going to look up for the DNS records of any given domain, but in my particular case, it seems like it didn't work. So let's see, maybe it did work, right? In this case, it seems like we got something. So it says the non-authoritative answer is google.com, and that's what their address is, and so on and so forth. So maybe that was already inside of the DNS records, the DNS resolution records of this virtual machine. Maybe that's why it worked. But if I do ns lookup example.com, let's see if that actually works. And it's technically it's giving me the same information that I was able to get from the documentation in the lab. So technically we actually did get the same response, so I'm guessing it worked. There's a couple of modifications that we can do to this here, is that if we follow up the command, so ns lookup, let me actually clear the screen so I'll do this again, I'll do clear screen. So if I run this command and then follow it up with 1.1.1.1, then what it's going to do is it's going to use the name server 1111, and then the terminal will actually show the response as that name server. Hopefully it works, and again, it timed out. So the server is 1111, the DNS for the request was timed out again. So this is not working the way that I was hoping that it was going to work. I think this portion of the command line we were actually supposed to run, or we were supposed to just read only and go through the documentation instead of just running these commands. So I'm going to do netstat to see if I can get any results from network statistics. Let's see if we can get anything from that. So it says we have active connections that have been established to the local address, that is to the foreign address, which is our attack box right here. So that has been established, so that's fine. So we actually have that active connection. There are a couple of flags that we can run with netstat to get some other data, as well as the one primary network connection, the established connection. So if you just do netstat by itself, it'll show you basically what you have that is currently established. If you want to see what all of the help options are, you can just do netstat-h, or we can even do netstat. I believe what we did was /?. That also brings up the help menu. So either of those will bring up the help menu for you, and you can look at a lot of different flags. So the flags that they gave us inside of the documentation was the A, B, O, and N. Now, doing it this way is actually the same as doing A-B-O-N, and a lot of command line tools will allow you to just kind of combine these things together. So I could just do it like that. And A displays all of the established connections and listening ports, so that's what A stands for, is all. B shows the program that's associated with each of the listening ports and the established connections. O reveals the process ID that's associated with the connection, and then N uses a numerical form for addresses and port numbers instead of showing you DNS resolutions. So we're going to do this, and then we're going to get all of the responses right here, and you can see this is a much larger output than just running netstat by itself, and it will show you the processes that are connected or trying to connect, what their status is, which would be listening. On these particular cases, we have one established connection, which is from our attack box to the actual IP address, and it's a TCP connection. And then we have the PIDs, of course, that are also associated with all of these connections or potential connections, and the port numbers and so on and so forth. So that is what netstat does. Now, what I want to show you is what just the NS lookup real quick will do for you when you run it properly and you actually do that DNS resolution. So we can see that we did the NS lookup example, and it gave us the same information as what we got before, but then what they did was when they changed the 1111 at the end of it, when they added that, the server that was trying to connect changed as well, and so did the IP address, and then the response was the same from example.com. So you can actually technically do that, and the reason for this is that you can essentially set up your outbound address to be Google has a few free public outbound addresses that you can use. One of them is 8.8.8.8, and then you can do that so that when you run your NS lookup on their end, on the receiving end, it looks like this IP address was the one that sent out the ping to try to connect to them, to try to get their DNS information, so that they can't backtrack it to you. That's one of the big things that I've taken away from kind of using these like generic, super basic IP addresses. So it's more for when they try to reverse engineer who tried to connect to them, they see this IP address instead of actually seeing your IP address. So when you run NS lookup, you can definitely just go ahead and change your IP address, or you can go to a service like nslookup.io, which basically just does that for you. You can just go in here and then just type in whatever the website is, and then just find DNS records that way. But this is, of course, not inside of the scope of this room, so they want us to learn how to use the tools that are inside of Windows to be able to do this. So that is the Windows version of the tool, which is NSLookup. So that is basically everything that we got for this. So now the questions here are, which command can we use to look up the server's physical address, which is the MAC address? So that would be ipconfig and then /all, and that would be this command that we would use to get the physical address, which is our MAC address. And what is the name of the process that is listening on port 3389? So if I go over here and try to find the process that's listening on port 3389, in this particular case, I have 3389, which is SVC host that is running, but it's not listening. So if we go up here and try to find the stuff that's listening, we can try to find the one that is connected to 3389. And in this particular case, I believe it's called term service. I think that's what it's called. So term service is probably the one that's listening on 3389. So let's try to put that in here and see if that is actually correct. And it is. Very good. And what is the subnet mask? And this actually I already know because we looked at it. So it would be 255.255.0.0, and that's what we have for our subnet mask. And just to remind you, you can literally just do a basic ipconfig command, and then it will give you your subnet mask, which is right there. So that is it for this particular task. And now we can move on to our next task, which is, I could have just clicked on the next one instead of doing this scrolling. My goodness. Sometimes I make life more difficult for myself. We have file and disk management. And this is, I mean, these things I essentially just dream about in my sleep now because it's like a second language at this point. But this is very, very useful to just be able to navigate the file system and the disk to be able to get information about where you are and where certain things are and how to list things, so on and so forth. So we are going to go through all of those commands now. All right, so file and system management, which is one of the more useful sets of commands that you're going to probably use. And I really hope you're actually running these inside of your own computer as well, or at the very least you've been connected to this virtual machine so you can run them as well. So file and system management, a lot of these commands actually work across multiple operating systems. So for example, the cd command, which stands for change directory, that actually works across multiple environments. So cd in this particular case actually works the same way that pwd would work inside of Linux. So to give you an example here, if I open up another terminal, which is going to be our Linux terminal that we can see here. So if I do pwd, it'll print my current working directory, right? So that's what pwd stands for. If we do it for Windows, instead of doing pwd, all we need to do is just type cd and then press enter. When you do that, it'll print the current directory. So cd would be, in this case, it would be considered to be, I guess, current directory. But the way that I've learned it is that it stands for change directory. So we'll get into that in a little bit. So once you know where you are, which in this case is inside of the C drive and the users folder, and then we are inside of this particular user's home directory. And so if we do dir, it'll list the contents of this specific directory that we're in. So every user will have a desktop, they'll have a documents folder, downloads, favorites, links, music, pictures, so on and so forth. Every user is going to have these very basic directories that are set up for them. And it just comes as a part of essentially every file system. Every modern file system will at the very least have these folders that are available to all of their users. Now what we can do is we can do some hidden displaying as well as maybe even the subdirectories that we want to list. So for example, in Linux, if we do ls.la, it will list everything that is also hidden as well as its permissions and so on and so forth. So in Windows, what we want to do is, and I guess I'm sorry, we're going to get into the Linux shell video and I'm kind of running across the board. I'm like bouncing all around. ADD is kicking in mad strong right now. So if I do dir and I do /a, it'll list everything as well as the hidden files. So it'll display hidden files, system files, and you can see the output is much larger than what we had previously. Of course, we still have the desktop and the documents and everything else, but we also now get a path to every single one of those things, as well as all of these hidden as well as system documents. These things are not visible to the naked eye, which is when you run the basic dir command. So let's do that one more time. So if I run dir, we can see it's just a clean output. It only shows us the stuff that we should technically be seeing. We don't need to see everything else that's a system or a hidden file. And then you have this ... that represents the upper directory, so meaning this specific location that would be represented by the dot, and then the singular dot represents where I am currently, so my current directory. So if you wanted to do that, you would essentially be able to kind of go back and forth. And again, I don't want to jump ahead. I just want to kind of show you where we're at right now. And then we have dir-s or /s that displays the files in the current directory and any subdirectory that exists, which is obviously a lot of stuff. So the current directory that we're at, so let's say it says users, user, start menu, programs, Windows PowerShell, users, user, template. It'll give you users, user, start menu, program, system tools, program startup, There's a lot of stuff, obviously, that's available for this particular user, because these are just natural parts of getting your Windows account set up for yourself. So there's all of these program files that are generic that comes with it, and everything else that's associated with it. And what we are doing is we are displaying the paths of those things and all of the subdirectories. So that's what /s does, and then /a will show you everything inside of your current directory, including all of the hidden files and the system files. So the next command that we can run is tree, and when you run tree, this is also another one of those clean outputs, and it'll show you basically a tree view of the directories that you have and everything that would be considered a child directory as well. So in this particular case, we don't actually have any child directories. So what I can do now, I can actually go into the cd command and go into it and hopefully create some things that we can use to view the tree format again, and then be able to run and actually see it cleanly. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cd, I'm going to change directory into my documents folder, and now you can see that my command line has actually updated and changed. Now I'm inside of the documents folder. So if I run cd by itself, it'll give me the full path of where I am at, which is the documents folder. And then there's a command which is a universal command, so mkdir, which stands for make directory. And now inside of the documents folder, I'm just going to create a directory called directory, right? And then I will do a dir command, and we can see that inside of my current directory, I have now created another one called directory. Cool. So then I can go inside of the directory, and I'll create another one, and we'll call that files. And whoops, not cd files, sorry, I'm going to do make dir files. And then now we have that. So now we can clear the screen. And so when we ran this, I told you that this represents going up one, right? So if I do cd ... it's going to take me from where I am, which is the directory, and it's going to take me back to documents. So I'm going to do that, and now it's documents. If I wanted to go up 2 levels, I could do cd ... and then do a /... and now it'll take me, instead of taking me directly to the user, it's going to take me to users. So it's going to go up 1, and then it's going to go up another one. So we press enter. Now we're inside of user. So if I do dir, we can see that there's actually the administrator user, the public user, strategos user, and of course the user, which is the one that we have. So we're going to go back into the user directory, and then we're going to do our dir, and then now we have here. So we're going to clear the screen, and now I'm going to type tree. And now I can see that inside of my documents folder, I have a directory, and then I have another files directory as well. So that's what tree does. And it's I love this output because it's actually very user friendly. It's human readable, and it doesn't give you much detail about what files exist or anything like that. It just shows you the child directories as well as all of the directories that are sitting inside of your current location. So if I went up one, and we were inside of the users directory and we ran tree, it will show us everything that's inside of user. Then it'll show us everything that's inside of the strategos. It'll show us everything inside of public, and even everything that's inside of administrator, because I guess I am technically an admin and I can view the contents of the administrator directory, the administrator user. So that is what tree does. So we're going to go back into user, and that's it. So let's see, what's the next command that we have here? We have cd, we have make directory that we talked about. There's another one called rm directory, so we can actually remove the directory that we've created. So if I go into my documents folder, and if I go into my directory folder, and then I can do rmdir, and I can do files, and that would be removed. So now I do this, and now there's nothing in here, and I can do go back 1, and then I can do rmdir documents, or not documents, excuse me, directory, to delete that directory that I've created. And now we're here, and excuse me, not clear, so CLS, and then so if I do dir, now we can see that that directory has been deleted, and then we can go back into our user folder. So mkdir, like that, makes a directory. rmdir removes a directory. Very, very simple. And then you just need to assign the name. So mkdir files will create a directory called files. rmdir files will remove the directory called files. Now, typically, if something is inside of it, so let's do that real quick. So if I do mkdir files, and then I'll do mkdir files, and then /files2 to just create another directory inside of it. So the syntax of this is incorrect. Interesting. So let's do a dir right here. We actually do have the files directory. So let's say I want to do mkdir, and I'll do files. Maybe I need to do a backslash for this, and then we'll do files2. So okay, yeah, it is a backslash that I have to do for that. So now if I clear my screen and I do a tree, I can see that I created this files directory as well as the files2 directory inside of it. So I want to remove the directory called files. Now if I do this, I will get an error because it says it is not empty. So if it's not empty, typically you have to force it to delete everything, including inside of it. And usually, so in Linux, it's -R to do a recursive delete. So if I do that, it says, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't even do it. So rmdir -R and then do files. And it says the directory is not empty, so you can't do it. So we can't specify. So let's do rmdir, and then we'll do H to see if we can find the command. Oh my God, there's no help command for this. So rmdir /question, maybe that's it. There we go. Okay. So it removes all directories and files in the specified directory. So it's not -R, it's actually -S that ends up removing everything in addition to the directory itself, and then it'll do it in quiet mode if you do -Q. So now that we know this, so what we want to do is we want to remove this directory, the files directory, as well as everything that's inside of it. So what we'll do is we'll do rmdir -S, and then we'll do files, and now, oh, come on. Or maybe it was, what was it? I thought it was, wasn't it? I thought it was S. Is it /S? So rmdir /S, and then we'll do files. There we go. Are you sure you want to? Yes, I do. And now it's been cleared. So now if I do dir, I can see that the files directory is gone. And of course, everything that was inside of that directory is also gone. So there we go. That makes sense. All right. Thank you for bearing with me. I appreciate it. Sometimes I need to do things a few times for it to actually register in my own head. So there we go. We got make directory. We got remove directory. We reran all those. So now let's actually start working with actual files. So if you want to know what the contents of a particular file are, first you can just see what type of file you are dealing with. So let's say, for example, that we actually have something inside of this. So I already know that I have dir. I have a bunch of directories that are in here. There was nothing inside of the desktop, or I don't think so. So let's go to desktop. Let's list that. There's nothing inside of the desktop. So I don't think there's going to be anything inside of this thing that is available for me. One thing that I can run potentially is I can try to find something in here. So let me see if I can find anything that potentially has like maybe a text file or something like that. So let's see if we can find a text file. Okay, cool. So inside of the tools directory, so inside of the main disk, inside of the tools directory, there was another directory called Vim, and then there's another directory inside of that called Vim91. And then inside of this, I can actually see that there are multiple text files. So readme.txt, for example. So if I wanted to see what type of file that was, I would just do type, and then I would write readme.txt, press enter, and then it'll actually say, okay, so it's actually a lot of data that's available to me, and it's not supposed to be it's not supposed to be that crazy of data, I don't think. So let's see. Let's go to the top and see what we get, because this is a lot of freaking stuff right here, dude. Or you know what? I think what it's doing is, instead of telling me what type of file it is, that's my bad. So instead of telling me what type of file it is, it's actually typing out the contents of the README file onto my screen. So this is actually the contents of the readme.txt file. So what is Vim and so on and so forth. That makes much more sense. So I thought it was going to give me the type of file because I'm confused and I think I'm using Linux, but I'm actually not. I'm using Windows. And so in Linux, the type command gives you a different type of response than what happens inside of Windows. So in my particular case, it's actually displaying the contents of the file, which is everything that you just see. That's what it shows us if we try to read that text file. So it's going to dump all the contents onto the screen. So if you don't want to actually open it, you can just use type and it'll just type everything inside of the screen. So that's fine. If we want to use the more command, which I'm not going to do because I thought that it was going to do page by page, but for whatever reason, that's actually not doing it for me. So if I'll just do it one more time. Maybe that's what it is. So there we go. We got this. So what is Vim? That's the very first page. If I scroll down, is it a scroll thing? I mean, the scroll didn't take anything. It's not showing me anything else. So I don't know. I clicked twice. It's still stuck on the same thing. Still not showing me anything else. And pressing down is not helping. Pressing right or left is not helping. Pressing enter. Oh, I see. So you have to press enter to display it. Interesting. Okay, so it's enter that actually gets you the information, which I guess is helpful. I don't know, whatever. All right, we're gonna get out of that. Control C and we're out of it. Okay, cool. So that's what we got. So type will actually print it onto the screen. That's all we got. If you want to do, oh, now we actually have the rest of the instruction. That is so annoying. I can't believe they didn't tell us this. So boom, more, instead of doing enter, which will do line by line, if you do space, it'll do page by page. There you go. That's how you can go space by page. Okay, or page by page, it's by space. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. That's actually useful. What we can do now is we can kind of go and create some other files and mess around with files in general. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into my C drive, and then from here I'm going to go into users/user, and it will be inside of our main location here, and then we can go into the desktop, and then we have nothing inside of the desktop. So we got that. So let's see if touch actually works here. Maybe it does. Does it work? There is no such thing such as touch. So touch is another one of those commands that is just for Linux. So one of the things that I need to do is how to create a file. Now, they don't show us this. They only show us how to copy a file, how to move a file, and so on and so forth. And it's not teaching me how to actually create one, which is, I would say, is the first step that I need to learn how to do before I can copy or move something. So first and foremost, I'm gonna learn how to create a file inside of the Microsoft command line, because I'm literally like, I know all of these things by heart because I literally just did the Linux Plus tutorial, and I've worked with Linux so often because I use Kali Linux for pen testing and cybersecurity. So I just need to get better at the command line of Windows. So first, let's find out how we can actually create a file inside of the Windows command line. All right, so I gotta be honest with you, this is actually a little bit disappointing because I thought it would actually be more user-friendly inside of Windows than it is inside of Linux, but it seems to be that Linux command line is much more superior than the Windows command line. So in order for us to be able to create a file inside of the Windows command line, we can do a few things. So we can do type null, which is essentially doing nothing, right? So you're gonna type something that is empty, and you can do the forward or the greater than symbol. Is that the less than symbol? Greater than symbol. You can do that, and then you can create the file name. So it will be file.txt, and then that should technically create a file called file.txt. So there we go. That's one way that we can do this. Another way that we can do this is we can use the echo command. And now this specific file, right? So if I do type file.txt, it should empty. So there's nothing inside of it because I literally just did null and I created an empty file. So now that I have this, I can technically just start adding stuff to it. So I can just say hello world, and I can add that to the file.txt. And now we can go ahead and type the file.txt, and we should say hello world inside it. So that's basically two different ways that we can create a file. If you just wanted to create an empty file, you would be able to do it that way. If you wanted to paste something into the file, you could use the echo command. And then there's another one where you can just open the text file inside of a mini text editor, and we can do that this way. Copy con, and then we would just do file.txt, and that's the way that you would open it up in a little text editor. And technically, I guess we are inside of the text editor right now, so I should be able to just do, you know, hey there, this is Hank. Press enter, and do you want to overwrite it? We'll say yes, and technically it's going to overwrite the previous file that we had, so we'll do yes one more time, and then Control Z should be able to save it, and it's not doing it, so let's clear that out. So one file has been copied. So dir, I have file.txt, so let's type that out and see if there's actually, if the file was overwritten, and it says, hey, there's Hank. Oh, there you go. And then we have yes as well, and so that was entered into it as well. So technically you can, I guess, do anything after the fact. So if you do copy file copycon file.txt, press enter, it says, do you want to overwrite it? And I'll do let's say no in this case. See if we can add it. Oh, nothing. Okay, so it'll just kick you out if you do no. So copycon file.txt, press enter. Do you want to overwrite it? Yes, I want to overwrite it. And I'll say, hi, this is Hank. Hope you are well. This is Windows command line tutorial. And I know that's not how you spell command, whatever. And then we'll do Control Z, press enter, and one file has been copied. And so now if we do the type file.txt, there we go, we have all of those commands. So that's a few different ways that you can create a new file. Now that we have this out of the way, now we know how to create a file, now we can do the copying of files, which is basically what they have as our next series of commands over here. So if I wanted to copy the file, so let's go and kind of mess around with that a little bit, and all of those commands are actually very similar to what is available inside of Linux. So thankfully they're quite similar to each other. So first and foremost, let's say I want to copy this specific file that I have and do another version of it, so it would be file2.txt, let's say. So now I can do that, and I can see that I have both of those files inside of my current directory. So copy, just spelled out, that would be the command that you would use to copy the file. So very, very easy to do. And then the next one would be to move the file. So let's say I want to, I'll create a new directory, and then we'll call that files, and then I want to move file2.txt into my files directory, and that file has been moved. So if I can go ahead and do a dir command, we can see that file2 has actually been moved, and then we can do a dir and do files, and it'll display what's inside of the files directory, which is file2.txt. So copy spelled out will copy the file, move spelled out will actually move the file. So very, very simple, very easy to do. Now there's a way that we can actually delete these files, and you probably guessed it, you can actually do it with the erase command spelled out, or you can do it with the del command like that, and then you would be able to delete the file itself. So let's say I have dir right here, and I will go ahead and do erase file.txt, and it will erase it. Now if I run dir again, we can see that that text file is no longer here. And one last command that we can actually use is how to refer to multiple files when you're trying to copy them or create them. So let's say we will do another one. So we'll do type null, and we'll put it inside of file3.txt, and then we'll do type null, and we'll put that inside of file4.txt. So now inside of my current directory, I have two .txt files, and I want to move those txt files inside of my files directory that I've created. So what we can do is we can do copy, and then we can do, or maybe even not copy, so we'll do move. So we want to move all of them, and we will do asterisk, which represents a wildcard character, and then do .txt, and now I want to move all of those guys inside of the files directory. So press enter. Now it says that this one and this one was moved into the files directory. So this asterisk represents basically any value. So as long as that value follows .txt or is followed by .txt, that means that essentially in your particular location, anything that is followed by .txt, is that an extension of .txt, is now going to be moved inside of your files directory. So now if we run dir, we can see that our current directory is empty. And if I go ahead and do dir of the files directory, I can see that all of the files have actually been moved inside of the files directory. So pretty cool little series of commands that we can use. So what we are going to do now is we're going to do a little bit of house cleaning. So I want to make sure that I delete the files directory as well as everything that is inside of it. So I will do rmdir/S, and then I will do files. And you do that, and it says, are you sure? And I'll say, yes, I am sure. And now we can list, and we can see that the files directory is gone. And of course, everything inside of it is also gone. All right, so the one question that we have inside of this task at the very bottom, it's asking us what is the content of the treasure hunt location. So obviously what we need to do is we need to go inside of the C drive, go into treasure, and then go into hunt and find the file. So let's see, let's actually go inside of the C drive and go into treasure hunt. So instead of going up like this, you can actually do this. So you can go C / like that, or / like that, do treasure, and then let me spell that right, and then do hunt like that, and that should just take me there. Beautiful. And then we will do dir, and then we can see that there is a text file. So if I do type flag.txt, there it is. So CLI_power. Now I can just highlight that, control or right click, copy, and then go here and then paste that, and there we go. That's our answer. Very, very easy. Or let's go down here and just click on this thing, make life easy. Very good. Okay, cool. So now we can move on to our official last task here, which is looking at task and process management and getting data about our tasks and processes. All right, so for task and process management, what we're going to do is run a very basic command, which is called task list. And this will just list all of the tasks that are currently running, or I guess we can call them all of the processes. So it's going to list all of the processes that are currently running. We can filter a lot of these things out because the output is actually going to be a very long output in most cases because there's a lot of background processes that are running. So you can check all the available filters, but by of course just doing the task list / and it'll print all of the potential options and flags that are available to combine with the task list command. For example, the U meaning everything for the user that is actually running it. That could be something. -S would give us everything that is remote system that's connected to, that's potentially running. So it's a lot of different options that are available for this. So let's say that we want to find something that is related to the SSH daemon, so sshd.exe. So what we can do is we can actually find it by running a few different flags. So if I do task list, and then I do /f and then I, then I can give it the actual image name, and then image name equals sshd.exe. So that's what it's going to look for. Now fi is used to set the filter image equals to. That's what fi really is for. So fi would be filter image, and it's in caps lock, and then inside of the quotes you would do image name, eq would be equals to, and then ssh.exe. So we run that, and then there we go. We have 3 services that shows up instead of that massive output that we had earlier. So a very, very useful little search parameter that you can combine with the task list command. So we can actually get the PID of it, right? So if we can say, or we can get information about any given PID, for example. So if we want to terminate it, we can terminate the PID of the actual process. So for example, in this particular case, let's say we want to terminate 1544. We can do task kill and then give it the PID option. And then from there, give it the actual 1544, and then it will kill that specific process that's running. So if we want to kill that process, you would do that. In this particular case, I think if I did that, it would actually kick me out of my SSH session. So I don't want to kill it. But if you wanted to kill any given process, you would just do task kill and then the PID option in all caps, and then you would give it the actual process ID number, and it would run it for you. So if we wanted to, now that's basically it. That's all we got for this particular task. And so the questions that we have is, what command would you use to find the running processes related to notepad.exe? So if we combine with what we had previously, so if I did task list /fi, and then I would do image name equals notepad.exe, that would be it. Now in this particular case, there's nothing in this system because there is no notepad processes that are currently running. But what I can do is I can copy this, since I already did it, and I can go over here, go to the bottom, and actually type that here or paste that in there, and then do task list, and there you go. So that's fi would be the image, so find image, and then it would be the image name equals to notepad, and it will actually give you every process related to notepad.txt. Now it says, what command would you use to kill the process with PID 1516? So it would be what? Task kill, and then PID like that, and then 1516, press enter, and there we go. That would be the command that you would run, and it would kill that process for you. And that's it. That's the absolute basics of what we can do inside of the Windows command line. Believe me when I tell you, there's a lot of stuff that you can do inside of the Windows command line. So for example, check disk, right? Running something like check disk will actually check the file system as well as the disk volumes that are attached to your system for any errors or bad sectors. And then there are options that comes with check disk where you can automatically fix all of the problems that it finds for you. I would be careful when I did that because sometimes it will delete something in the process of fixing it and repairing it. And if you haven't done a proper backup, you may lose information or data that is important to you. So just check the file system for errors and bad sectors. You could do that with check disk. If you do driver query, which we already did, which will display a list of all of the installed device drivers that you can potentially do, which is a massive output, as you already saw. You can do SFC/scan now, which will scan the system files for any kind of corruption or repairs, corruption, and then would repair them if it was actually possible to repair them, or if there was a repair that was required. If we do / it will bring us all of the help menu or the help options that are available for any given command. And there's a lot of different ways that we have been able to do that. And usually for any command, even if I know the command, even if I've used it before, I'll pull up the help menu just so I can see what options are available for me. And then we use the command more in a couple of ways. So we did more and then the text, and then we also did the command, and then we did more, where it would display the output of a command in a paged view. So you can press space, the space bar, and it'll go page by page, or you can just press enter and it'll go line by line. So you can do more the contents of a text file, or you can do the command and then pipe the output of that into the more command, and it'll give you everything in the page by page view. So very useful series of commands that we got. This was actually a nice refresher for me, and I even learned how to create a new file, which I had not learned how to do, or I have not done frequently enough that I memorized. I think I've done it in some capacity in like a different tutorial, but I don't use Windows command line that often. So this was really nice for me. I had not gone through this window or this task, so you can actually see that I didn't have these green checkboxes previously. I actually went through this task for the first time with you today. So we were going through it together, and it was a nice refresher for me, as well as some new teachings as well. So we have a couple of commands left to run. So it says the command shutdown -s can shut down a system. What is the command that you can use to restart a system? And I'm just going to say restart -s. And let's say if that's not it. So what does the hint say? So let's see what our hint says here. The hint says shutdown dash and more. Interesting. So that's the full command. Oh no, I see. So that's the command that we would get to be able to find out how we can restart a system. So let's see what I'm gonna guess that it's the -r probably is how you can do it. So if I go shutdown and then do / like that, and then do more, just so we can see all the outputs one by one. So we're looking for something that will restart our system. So this is the very, very first page here. shut down the computer, shut down on the next boot. After that, it'll restart any registered applications, full shutdown and restart the computer. So that could be it. /R is probably it. Full shutdown and restart the computer. Full shutdown and restart the computer. After the system is rebooted, automatic sign-on is enabled, so on and so forth. So let's see what's on the next page. We can see these options, and I think it's the /R. Honestly, I think that's basically it. So let's go back over here, and we will do shutdown -R. Press enter. Okay, so -R was not the answer that they were looking for. So the only other answer that I can think of would be the /G. And I mean, that's literally the only thing that I saw that even has to do with restarting the computer. So I'm gonna say it is the oh, it did. I mean, it was super late, so I guess it is -R. It freaking took a long time for it to tell me that it was actually the right answer, because I kept pressing enter and it wasn't giving me the right answer notification. I'm like, okay, well, I guess that's wrong, but no, it's right. So shutdown /R, that is actually the right answer. And then what we have finally is, what command can you use to abort a scheduled system shutdown? So how to abort a scheduled system shutdown, and it's actually right on the screen actually. So /A would be the aborting of the scheduled system shutdown. So hopefully this one actually works on the first try. So let's do this. We'll go here, shutdown, and then A, press enter, and let's see if that actually works. Okay, that did work, and it gave me the congratulations. So this is actually a new update that they've done to the rooms. So this is this pop-up previously was not something that was displayed, and that took a few seconds for it to give me the final confirmation as well. So but that was the right answer. So shutdown /A was the command that we would use to abort a shutdown operation. So that is it for our Windows command line. And the very next room that we have is the Windows PowerShell, which is going to be something that we will do in the next video. So that is it for this one. Congratulations on making it all the way through, and let's wrap it up real quick. All right, so if you have not already done so, I do encourage you to subscribe. So like, comment, turn on the notification bell, subscribe, all that good stuff, so that you can get notified the next time that a video comes out, especially if you're interested in the Cybersecurity 101 pathway, which is really all of the basics that we're going through. And the CySec 101 is actually one of the playlists that we have over here. It's one of the more recent playlists, which is the Cybersecurity 101 right here. And it currently has 13 episodes on it, or 13 videos that are attached to it. We're currently on episode 11 from what I remember, but there are a couple of compilation videos that I have connected to it. So that's why we see that there are 13 videos. So if you wanted to look at certain modules in one long compilation video, those are available for you. Or if you wanted to go into room by room, or episode by episode, that's also available to you. Linux certification, Linux Plus certification, that's something that recently came out, and it was actually received very well, and I got a lot of great feedback from it. And then there's just a lot of other playlists that are available, and then if you just want to scroll through all of the videos that are available, all of that stuff is available for you as well. So there's a lot of content that comes through this particular channel, and it's mostly centered around cybersecurity, ethical hacking, pen testing. But then I do listen to the comments that come in, and I do create videos that are requested specifically by the community. So if you have not done so, make sure that you like, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, but also go into the comment section and drop a comment for me. There's a lot of stuff that comes through the comment section. It's very, very active. We have built a beautiful community, and I'm super excited about it, and I'm super grateful for it. And it's just one of those things that I pay attention to everything that people say, because I am interested in delivering content that is valuable to you, and you have specifically requested. So if you haven't done so already, make sure that you like, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, share it, all that good stuff. But make sure you also drop a comment so that I know what you're thinking about. And if you have any questions, I can answer them for you. If you just want to say hi, say hi. If you want to say thanks, all that good stuff is amazing. I love all of that stuff. But if you have any questions, drop your questions as well, so that I can make sure that I can get you the information that you need. So one last note, like, subscribe, turn on notification bell, drop a comment, all that good stuff. And I will hopefully see you in the comment section. And if not in the comment section, I hope I see you in the Hackaholics Anonymous community. So this is actually our paid membership community. It is the premier community, in my humble opinion, for cybersecurity and ethical hacking and security professionals and hackers, and there's a lot of perks that are associated with this community. For example, the exclusive downloads that I give people when we do these massive tutorials like Linux Plus and the upcoming Security Plus tutorial that's going to be coming out. There is, practice questions, there is the document that has all the notes, there is the practice exams that's going to be included inside of the Security Plus. All of that is reserved for our paid members that are inside of Hackaholics Anonymous. We do have the very first tier, which is the supporter tier, which literally you can get access to for the price of one single cup of coffee at Starbucks or something like that. And for that, you get access to the Discord community. If you get any of the advanced memberships, you'll get automatic Python automations that are available at the end of every single month. We'll do a live stream that we do for our members. You get access to the advanced Discord servers. You get access to exclusive content, the exclusive downloads, a lot of stuff that's available. So if you haven't already checked out Hackaholics Anonymous, I do encourage you to check it out. I truly believe that is a really great value. You get a lot of bang for your buck, so to speak, and it's growing, and it's very heartwarming to see that people are actually joining that community. So if you're not gonna say hi in the comment section, or if you wanna take it to the next level, then definitely come inside the Discord community. Even as a supporter, just come inside the Discord community. We'll tag along with you on your cybersecurity journey. You'll get access to me as well as our advanced members inside of the basic supporter Discord. But then if you want to really take it a step further, then you come in as one of the advanced members and you'll get a bunch of perks. So if you haven't checked it out, click on this little red more button, or just watch this little 14-minute video, and then you'll get a breakdown of all the different perks that are available. And then from there, I'll see you inside of the Discord chat. It's your boy Hank Hackerson at Hank Hacks Hackers, your favorite network and system attacker / protector. Love, peace, and chicken grease. If no one else loves you, Hank loves you. And I'll see you in the next video. Peace.